training, no classes next week. Wednesday, the 3rd of July. It's time to just get your stuff together and spend some time with your family. So again, good evening, everybody. Thank God for all of you joining us online. Welcome to this home buying seminar, How I Sell Homes for Top Dollar When Others Fail. This is her own book, all right, her own book, all right. There's so much that this woman of God has accomplished, and so we're very grateful for the opportunity for you to come tonight and share with us. And then after you presented, like 40 minutes, we'll ask some questions, and then we'll move forward. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome to the podium the rock star saleswoman, Minister Marianne. We also want to express our condolences to you in the passing of your auntie today. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bishop. Thank you, everybody, for seeing value in this class. It's an honor to be here, and I hope that when I'm done, that you will be able to take away some valuable information. The first thing I want to do is ask you, how many of you are homeowners? Raise your hand. Okay. Okay. Homeowners. How many of you want to buy a home? Raise your hand. Okay, me too. All right. Well, I just want to share a brief bio about myself. I was an educator for 31 years. I worked for the Department of Education, and I was a teacher, a coach, a mentor, and I had clubs and all of that. And when I retired, I didn't have a plan for my life. However, I would say about 4 or 5 of my close relatives, my sister, my niece, my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law, all realtors. And at a Thanksgiving dinner one day, they said to me, "So what are you going to do?" I said, "I don't know." And I said, "Why don't you be," I did travel, "why don't you be a realtor?" And I said, "You think so?" And they said, "You would be great." And I thought about it, and I said, "If you say so." And so I decided that that's what I was going to do. And then prior to that, years ago, Bishop Smith had prophesied over me before I was even part of Brainerd Christian Center. And he said that I was going to make a lot of money in real estate. And so I thought, okay, so now I'm going to position myself for this prophetic word to happen in my life. And so here I am. I'm in the business 10 years. I love it. I would never go back to working for anybody. I'm not trying to recruit you. But anyway, so that's a little bit about me. I love what I do. I love helping people. You know what? Can we go to the next slide, please? On July 10th, you're going to meet the rest of my team. We're going to have John Kelly. He is amazing, a senior loan officer at Cross Country Mortgage, and Nancy Carr. She is an amazing real estate attorney, and they will be here on July 10th. So you can ask them all your financial questions or legal questions, and so that'll be the week after next. Next slide, please. And so, you know what, before I start, I just want to share a little introduction. Last week was amazing, and I want to thank you, Natalie Bennett, because that class was awesome. And I told you that, but I had to say it again. In fact, I called Bishop, and I said, "Bishop, that class was perfect for me. It was a perfect introduction for where I have to go next." And it really made me think hard about where I was in my financial life, you know? And so I thank you for that. I thank you for that class last week. And, you know, I thought, okay, so now this is the home buyer seminar, but we're also in church. And I thought, are there any scriptures that I could use that have to do with home buying? And I found a few, but I'm going to just go to this one scripture, Luke 14:28. "For which of you, desiring to build a tower, does not first sit down and count the cost, whether he has enough to complete it?" And when I look at that scripture, it highlights the importance of planning, seeking God's guidance, and also being wise in making decisions relating to buying or building a house, investing in a property. So I like that scripture because it tells us that we need to include God in our plans, and we need to count the cost. Buying a house is probably one of the most expensive things that you'll ever invest in your life. And so it's really important to do it right. So on the agenda, I'm going to go through the benefits of home ownership. Then we're going to talk about the home buying process, a little bit about today's market, and then we'll have questions and answers. So benefits of home buying, home ownership. And there's a quote that says, don't wait to buy real estate. Buy real estate and wait. And they're saying that more than ever now because the interest rates of properties are high. But yet people have a need to buy a home for whatever reason. And so what they're really telling you to do is not to wait. Not to wait for rates to go down. Not to wait. Buy the house and then wait. And when the rates come down, then you can refinance. But it's important that if you need to get a house, now is the time. Now, renting versus owning. Now, for a long, long time I was a renter, and my mother would say, Marianne, you're paying your landlord's mortgage. When are you going to buy a house? And I didn't realize it because it was very easy for me to rent. Thank you. So when you're renting, you're building your landlord's wealth. You're paying his mortgage. You're paying his mortgage. Your monthly rent payment is likely to increase every year. And you may be limited into what you can do as far as personal customizing in the house. They may not want you to hang things. They may not want you to renovate or do things that you would do if it were your own. You may not be able to have pets. You may not be able to have parties and things like that because landlords can be very, very strict because it's their house, it's not yours. So you're likely to pay rent, have a move-in fee, a pet fee, and even a security deposit. Right now, when people call me and tell me that they want to rent, I ask them how much is in your budget to rent, and they'll tell me $2,500. I say, you pay a mortgage for $2,500, and it could be yours. And so when you think about renting, everything, they say that there's a 100% interest rate when you're renting. You're going to pay a mortgage interest rate on the amount of the loan that you borrow, but when you're renting, you're giving the landlord everything. You're giving him everything. There's no tax deductions, and there's no equity. It's not yours. But when you're buying, you're building your own wealth. Your monthly mortgage payment is locked in if you have a fixed rate. I'm not going to go into banking or finances right now, but you should have a fixed rate. And you have freedom to do whatever you want in that house. I know the most awesome thing about me when I bought my house, my house was having my own washer and dryer. I didn't have to go to the laundromat anymore. I hated that. And so now I can do laundry every day if I want. And so that was one of the things that I loved about owning my own home. You're likely to owe a down payment and closing costs. If you buy a house, you're gonna have to have a down payment and closing costs. So we'll talk about that in a little while. And then the interest portion of your monthly mortgage payment is tax deductible, so you can write that off at the end of the year. And then also your property value appreciates, it increases as you pay off your mortgage. So what happens is there's more equity in that house. The bank owns less and you own more. So let me see if I could do this. Okay. All right. So next, interest rates. Right now, mortgage interest rates, and of course they fluctuate depending on your credit, depending on your own personal debt-to-income ratio and all of that. And I'm not going to talk about that because John will talk about that. But right now, the current mortgage interest rates are probably from high 6s to middle 7s if you were to purchase a home today, depending on that. When you look at a car loan, you could find that car loan interest rates are between 9% and 15%. If you would get a personal loan, 10 to 16%. Credit card loans, depending on your credit, of course, credit card interest rates are high. And then renting, as I said, is 100%. Okay, so renting drains your resources while owning real estate is an investment that nurtures your financial future. Don't just spend on shelter, a place to live, but invest in your own prosperity, invest in your future. So if we look at monthly rent at $2,500 a month, an average monthly rent in this area, in 1 year, you'll be paying $30,000. That's a lot of money. That could be a down payment. And in 10 years, $354,000 you would have spent if you stayed at renting. So you can see the importance of owning opposed to renting. Okay. So next we're going to look at common misconceptions. And we're not going to go through all of them, but a lot of people that don't own, they might think, oh no, I have to have a perfect credit score. And that's not true. That's not true. There are FHA loans where you can have a lower credit score and you can put down just a small amount for a down payment, like 3.5%, and purchase a home. So you don't have to think like that. You don't have to have a perfect credit score. You can have in the sixes, low sixes, and the bank will tell you that next time. Another misconception is you need to have a 20% down payment to buy a home. That's not true either. Is it good to have that? Yes. Because the more you put down when you purchase a home, first of all, if you put down 20%, you're not going to have a PMI, which is a mortgage insurance. But if you don't, that's okay. You don't have to put down 20%. The more you put down, the less you're going to pay off in your loan. And then they say, most people say, oh, spring is the best time to buy, and that's not even necessarily so. Spring is a hot time for home purchases. However, it's very competitive in the spring. You'll end up going into bidding wars to get the property that you want. So spring is not necessarily the time that you have to buy. The time for you to buy is whenever you have decided that you're ready. When you're ready to buy, that's the time. And as far as the market, there people are waiting for the market to crash home prices. Well, it's not going to happen. The last time we had a crash was in 2008, and I'm not even going to go into that, but lenders were lending out more for home loans than people were really qualified to get. Most of the people that own homes ended up in foreclosure and lost their properties because they were doing that, and that's when they came with this middleman for appraisers because they were working with the appraiser. There was no middleman, so there was an arm's length relationship where the banks were working with the appraisers and telling them how much they needed for the house, the value of the house to be, and so they were doing these deals, and a lot of people lost their homes. I, for one, I thank God for Obama because he did the making homes affordable in that time. That's when he was in the presidency, right? Yes, and it allowed you to do loan modifications where you could bring down the interest rate on your home, and so that's what I had done. But I'm going to move on to the buying process, and then if you have questions, you can raise your hand, and I will certainly try to answer it. So in the parties involved in your real estate transaction, of course, there's a realtor, and that's somebody that's going to help you, like I would, from the beginning to the end. And the loan officer is going to be the one that gives you your pre-approval, and he will determine how much he can lend you, and then we can go shopping. And the real estate attorney is going to be with you throughout the entire process and make sure that everything goes smoothly. And home inspection, movers, contractors, these are all different parties that can be in your transaction. Now, why do you need a realtor? Well, first of all, the realtor is an expert in real estate, so I know what I'm doing, so I would be able to help you as far as determining if the prices on the houses that you're interested in are worth that money. I'll do comps and figure it out, look at the market, see if this is worth it or not, and I walk you through the entire process. I educate you in case you're not sure about it. You know, sometimes, like when I bought my house, I didn't know anything. I bought my neighbor's house. I didn't have a realtor. I don't know how I got that house because I had no idea what I was doing. Yeah, but you shouldn't do it that way. So you'll have complete buyer representation. My total loyalty and commitment is to you to make sure that you are getting the house that you want. I find the houses for you. I have access to all different resources to search the houses out, look at the history of the house and the value and everything else. Negotiation skills, once you decide that you want a house, I put in an offer for you. I have become experienced in getting offers accepted, and I guide you through the entire process. So it's really important not to do it on your own. Not to do it on your own. You don't have to necessarily work with me, but you should get a realtor that you trust and will represent you completely. I just wanted to hand these out so that you can have these. Can you hand these out for me, please? Thank you. So this is a Monopoly board, but it really shows the entire process. And I think it's important for you to see that before, if you said to me, you know what, Marianne, I need to get a house and I want to get it as soon as possible. You know what? I have the money, my credit is good, and I just really, really want to get a house. Well, the first thing that we would have to do is get a pre-approval for you. And, you know, when I work with buyers, but I don't have to know your credit score. I don't have to see your bank statements. I don't have to see your bank accounts, your 401s, your retirement money. That's not my business. And sometimes people think, well, I don't want, you know, that person to know my business. I don't have to. I don't work with you when you work with the bank. You will meet with the bank. You will send the bank all your information or go to the office and have him copy your paperwork. And then he will tell you how much your pre-approval was and what will come in. So then once we get the pre-approval, that's when we start shopping. But of course, I sit down with you, we find out your needs and your wants, what you need and what you want. And that will take some time, but that's the only way we can determine, you know, where your house is going to be and how much you're going to be able to spend. Once we find your house, we make an offer, go through the application process. There's an inspection that's involved. You have to hire the inspector, and they will determine if the house needs any work, if it has any major issues, if the boiler is no good, or the roof, or the foundation, or if there's leaks or mold or whatever it is. That's why you hire the inspector. And something else that is a new law now that came into effect in March is that the property owner has to fill out a property condition disclosure form. So this is a new law that came in by New York State in March. Before that, the seller would give the buyer $500 at closing to pay for their inspection, and they wouldn't have to disclose anything. But now it's a little different. The owner of the property must disclose. They must tell you what's wrong with the house. And you're able to have this property condition form when you go on your inspection. And of course, I'm with you, with the inspector, and we go through the house, they go through the property disclosure form. Do all owners know the condition of their house? No. Very often, the home could be a family inheritance. They never lived in it, but they inherited it. They might have bought it as an investment property, and they just renovated, but they don't know the condition of the property. So there's all different things that come into play, but I just wanted to share that with you. Once you go through the inspection, if the house is good, you don't use the inspection as a bargaining chip, but the inspection is important for you to understand the condition of the home and if you want to move forward with the deal. If you find out that there's really nothing major wrong with the house, because unless you're doing a brand new construction, you're going to find things wrong with the house, but we're looking at serious things, not small things. Then you meet with the attorney, and you sign contracts and you put down a down payment. Depending on how much you have, that's how much you'll put down. Depends, down payment can be 3.5%, 5%, 10%, 15%. And very often, if you work, like I work for the Board of Ed, I was able to take it out of my TDA, my tax deferred annuity, and I borrowed it for myself. And so, and very often people, city workers don't know that they can borrow from themselves, and you may not have a big savings, but you can borrow from your pension, you can borrow from all these different tax shelters, and then pay yourself back. And so you're not really paying that much. So that's another thing. And then you put down your down payment, you sign contracts, and then right after that, the bank begins to work on your loan. Once they work on your loan, they're gonna call me and tell me that they need to do an appraisal on the property. At that time, I had already done comps. I have the comps, a copy of the contract, give it to the appraiser. We go through the house and make sure that the value of the house is worth what the bank is going to lend you. And after that, we usually get a commitment letter from the bank saying that we're doing your loan, And then a little bit after that, we'll get a clear to close, and we go to closing. So you have everything there. Of course, you're going to get the appraisal report. There's underwriting, commitment letter, title report. There is a title search on the house, and the buyer pays for that as well to make sure that nobody else is claiming your house, make sure that there's no liens or violations on that property. That can become very sticky. I have 2 deals right now that I've been waiting to close on forever, and they both have title issues that we're waiting to resolve. So it depends. It depends on the title report. Homeowner insurance, when you're getting ready to close, then you'll be advised by your realtor that you need to get homeowner's insurance. And after that, we go to the closing table. We do a final walkthrough prior to the closing, and then that's it. You are now a homeowner. Any questions on that? I know it's a long process, but it really, how long does that process take? Well, depending on the location and the property that you're looking for, and how much you're willing to spend, we can, once we find your house, it'll take about 30 to 45 days to close. So depending on how long we take to find your home. It can take a few weeks, it can take a month, it can take a few months, it depends. You don't only have to buy a house. You may want to get a condo, a townhouse in Westchester. There are beautiful townhouses that look like houses, but you pay an HOA fee, but it has a lot of amenities. It might have an in-ground swimming pool or a tennis court and a health, a health center, fitness center. So there's a lot of things that you can get if you really feel like, you know what, a house is too much for me, especially single ladies. There's a lot of maintenance that you may not want to bother with. So then you can get a condo. And there's a lot of beautiful condos in Westchester. There are even condos in the Bronx. I'm trying to see now. Post-closing, you get a gift from me on your closing date. And that's it. On that part, step by step, I have this already, so I'm going to, the cost of buying. So the average property, we're going to say, this is just hypothetically speaking. Right now, a single-family house, the average single-family house in the Bronx is about $600, $650. It's up there. It's high. Condo, depending if you want to get in Westchester, you can probably get a condo for about $400, $375, depending. They have some nice condos. We would have to look. It depends if you want a 1-bedroom or you want 3-bedroom and 2-bath. If you want a duplex, it all depends on what you want or what you need. But we're looking at this sample of an average property at $300 because I want to just show you the numbers. So the down payment can be anywhere from, say, 3% to 20%. And that will mean that you need, if it's 3%, $9,000 for down payment. Closing costs can be anywhere from 3 to 5%, which means you would need $9,000 for closing costs. What I usually tell my clients is, if you want a $500,000 house, you should have 10%. You should have at least $50,000 on the side so that you can put down at least 5% down and 5% for closing. Closing costs anywhere between 4 to 6%. And the attorney will share that information about what goes into the closing costs. So today's market, right now, it is a seller's market. It's been a seller's market since COVID or even before COVID. And what does that mean? A seller's market means that there's low inventory, but lots of buyers. Lots of buyers. So what happens when there's, supply and demand, when there's low inventory, but so many buyers want to buy, what do you think happens? Bidding wars, it pushes the value of the house up. So if you have a house that's $550,000, and I love being a listing agent because I get to sell the house. I'm guaranteed to sell it, especially in the seller's market. But what happens is you can only have one buyer. So now I have multiple offers on a property. I'll have like 5, 6, 7, 8 buyers that love this house. What happens? I have to let them know, well, you know what? The sellers are requesting highest and best. Your highest offer and your best offer by Friday at 5 p.m. Please submit it, and then we review the offers with my clients. And of course, most of the time, what is the best offer? For most, it's the highest. The highest, that they have a substantial down payment. Cash offer is even better, but the sellers usually get way over asking. That's why when I'm listing, I encourage my sellers to listen to me because I know what I'm doing. Let's price the house lower. We get more action, more interest, and then that pushes the value up to where it should be because everybody wants to buy it. I had a 3-family in, it's going back on the market, but I had 22 showings in one day. I had about 12 offers, and it pushed it up. It was a 3-family Morris Park hot property, but he listened to me. So we had it at $975, and of course it went up over $1 million. So that's the way to do it, because once you price it at an attractive price, and that for the buyers, what does that mean? That means that you have to be ready to put in a good offer. And the only bad thing about that is if you don't have a large down payment, then we can't play with your offer. That means we have to look at lower priced properties so we're able to offer more, because we know how much we can offer. Okay. A seller's market means that it's not going to be on the market a long time. It's not going to sit if it's priced to sell. There's a high buyer demand, buyer competitions, multiple offers, quick sales, and rising prices. Factors that affect, I'm sorry, I forgot I'm doing this. Okay, so factors that affect the home prices. So, of course, it depends on the type of home that you're getting, the location of where the home is, and the taxes. So right now in the Bronx, you can get a home with not a lot of square footage. They're not large houses unless you go to Country Club, where they have $1 million properties, you know, that have large square footage. But basically, the square footage is small, the taxes are low, but you're near everything. So you're near Manhattan, you're near transportation and everything else. Once you go north, the taxes increase, but so does the square footage. You can get a beautiful home with a lot of land, and the further north you go, the more you get for your money. So that's one thing. So you're looking at location, looking at taxes. You know, taxes are based on the school system too. So if you have children and it's important for you to get your child into a good school system, then you're going to be researching, all right, what are the best school systems? Are they in Rockland County, or are they in, you know, we're at Westchester County? And research that, but then it's worth it to pay the taxes because you know your children are going to get a great education. So the condition of the house also affects the price of the house. So if you get a distressed property is a property that's in foreclosure or a short sale, then you can pay very little for it, but you usually need to either pay cash or you have to have a large down payment for a distressed property, or you can get a rehab loan. A rehab loan is more complicated, but the bank can share that with you, so that you can get a distressed property, and then everything is included in the loan, where you have contractors fixing everything. It's a longer process, but it's doable if you wanted to get a distressed property. And demand, okay. So also factors that affect the home prices are the demand. We're in a seller's market right now, and so there are going to be bidding wars, recent sales in the neighborhood. So comparative market analysis are done based on the homes that are similar to the house that you want to purchase that have sold like in the last 6 months. So when an appraiser does his comps and he appraises the value, he's looking at similar properties to yours, construction, the year that it was built, if it has any renovations. When you do a new kitchen, a new bathroom, that adds value to the house. When you have other renovations like new steps and backyard and all of that, like what Bishop did, it adds so much value to your home. And so that will determine the price of the home. And then also the sales in the neighborhood and the interest rates. So if the interest rates are high right now, then you're probably going to qualify for a less expensive home, because when you have to pay high interest rates, the interest rates are added into the mortgage. So there's principal, that's the amount that you borrow from the bank. Then there's interest, that's interest on the loan that you borrow from the bank. And then there's taxes, and then there is insurance, homeowners insurance. So it's PITI, PITI. And those are the 4 components that actually go into your mortgage payment every month: the principal, the interest, the taxes, and the homeowner's insurance. Now, if you happen to do only a 3.5% down payment, then you're going to have an additional PMI, and that's insurance on the mortgage. The bank wants insurance because you're only putting a little down, so you're considered a risk. So that's when they'll charge you that. And if it's an FHA loan, I'm not sure. I don't want to give you wrong information, but I know that on a conventional, if you only put down 10%, you need 20% equity. You need 20% down. So once you have the equity, the PMI goes away. But if it's an FHA, I'm not sure if it will go away. So you can ask that question in 2 weeks. And how to make a competitive offer, and basically we're going to look at the price and see how much you're willing to pay. You know, very often you love the house, and so you're willing to pay more for it, so then we can base it on what you want to pay for the house. What is that house worth for you? And then, of course, we have to make sure that the comps are around the same price, and how much you want to put down, and then contingencies. You know, in a seller's market, especially in these last few years, people were really, really coming up with creative contingencies. Like, I'm waiving my inspection, I'm waiving my appraisal, I'm waiving my mortgage contingencies, and all of these things, I don't know if you understand them or not, but basically you're telling the seller, I don't care, I want your house. I don't care, I can get the mortgage regardless, I have the money, I don't need an inspection, I'm sure the house is good. So when a seller is selling a house and they get a buyer in their offer that puts all of these contingencies, that's very attractive for a seller. They're figuring, okay, and they'll accept your offer. So people are really, really, these are all the different things that they're willing to relinquish just to get the house. And then there's the settlement. The settlement is the time, the 30 to 45 days for the actual loan to take place from the beginning to the end. So I think that, let's see, you got the keys, yeah. And then when we finish all of that, they decide on a closing date, and you get the keys to the house. So I am here to assist you with your real estate needs. That's my information. I have business cards if you want. And the disclaimer just says that the information I gave you is just, most of it was just hypothetical. It doesn't mean that what I said, you know, like as far as prices of houses and everything. I wanted to ask you, for those people that want to buy a house, raise your hand, because I have a gift. I have a gift. Raise your hand. I know now that you say you want to buy a house, right? Okay, come up. And this is an incentive, and it says new home, new adventures, new memories. So come. This is for you. And who else raised their hand that wanted a house? Did you want to get a house? Okay. Yes. Come up and take your keychain. You know, Bishop said, you know, you have to have a vision, right? So this could be part of your vision. This is your incentive. You bring this to the closing table, and then we'll put your home keys on it. Anybody else? Yes, Minister Bell. Yes.
Okay, testing 1, 2, withdraw.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Okay. Now it's time for questions. Sister Parkins. Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I have a question in regards to, could you elaborate a little bit more about refinancing and what that process is and why do people refinance?
Okay. Well, first of all,
you probably
I'm
didn't.
a realtor.
Oh, okay.
And so my area of expertise is in real estate.
Okay.
Refinancing is an excellent question, but I'm not going to give you that information because I'm not a loan officer.
Oh, okay.
He'll be here in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Okay? And he's an expert at that. He's the man.
So just a quick thing. I'm not trying to be the finance person, but people refinance if it's a low interest rate.
Yeah.
But usually, right now, the interest rates are higher. That's why nobody's moving. I think it's moving. If you locked in at 3%, and now it's 7%, you know, so it's a catch-22 situation, because if you have a $500,000 value in your house, you want to pull out some of that money, to pay off all your other debt, you're going to be paying a whole lot more. So that's why nobody's really trying to refinance right now.
Thank you, Bishop. That's so true. That's so true. I mean, like, I have a very low interest rate on my house, and I would love to buy a new house. Like, I have a two-family, and I want to upgrade. I don't want tenants. I want my own house. I hear pitter-patter running up back and forth, and you know, that's okay. I have great tenants, but I've had so many tenants because I have the house for like 20 years now. Yeah, over 20 years. And all of my tenants went on to buy their own home. But I want my own home. I mean, like single family. And I hope that will happen if the interest rates ever go down, because I'm not going to give up this for something that's higher right now. Another question?
I don't know which. Here we go.
What's on? Yeah, so I want to talk a little bit about what you just said. So you have tenants and talking about how does one go about investment properties, right? Because say you're single, you want to buy a house, you may not be able to afford a house. Like, what are the options available so that it can not just be shelter, but it could also be for financial, like, investments?
Absolutely, that's a great question. Basically, the best investments right now are either flips, where you do your first one, you flip it, and then with that money, if it's a hard money loan, you pay off your loan, and then with the rest of the money that you have, you can use that to invest in a rental property. Rental properties is the next best investment, where you buy a rental property. I know all the investor clients that I have, all they want, first of all, is programs in their rentals, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to get them, but programs right now are paying top dollar. I have the list for 2024, and you would not believe what they're paying for a two-bedroom apartment or a three-bedroom apartment. So what you have to do is, you would have to speak to the bank. You would have to speak to the bank to find out how much you can borrow. You can borrow equity from your house and use that to invest in another property, and then you'll own that property. How long do you own your property? That's great. So you can actually take money from your property and use that to invest in another property. If you wanted to get a foreclosure, you could if you had a team of people, you could flip it and turn it over and get money. Right now, my sister and my niece are doing that.
Marianne, could you explain I mean, I know what hard money is, but just for everybody's, for knowledge sake, what is hard money?
So there are banks that give hard money loans, and what that means is that they will lend you money so that you can do a deal right away, and then you will pay a higher interest rate to them to pay them off. So you can borrow money quickly from a bank, and they'll give you whatever you need for the purchase of the house, but then once you flip that house, this is for a flip, that usually people will do that. As soon as you sell it, and you're going to sell it for a lot more than what you paid for it, obviously, you pay off that loan. And so it's worth it. Investors use hard money loans. When they don't have enough money of their own, they will get from a hard money lender.
Right, so the other thing too is that with hard money lenders, that you can Google private lenders near me, right? And usually it's not the banks that making the hard money loans, it's usually private investors making.
Yeah, and I have a few that I could recommend that do that. That's all they do is work with people that want to make investments.
Does the process differ if you are buying for investment? Or I think there's another term they have it where you can buy, like similar to you buy a dual family home and you live in one part and you rent in another part. Like, is the process that we went through earlier the same, regardless of whether you're buying for yourself, if you're buying for a flip, or if you're buying to live in and rent, like you buy a duplex and you rent out parts of the house?
So actually the process is the same. It is, and if you wanted to live in one and rent out the other, or rent out the whole thing, it's still the same process. Yeah, I mean, you can even pay all cash, and it still may take a long time. And with all cash, there's no appraisal, there's no waiting for the mortgage, but it depends. Every deal is different, so it's so difficult to say, oh yeah, that'll only take 30 days. Every deal is different, so it really, really depends.
Marianne, quick question for you. Isn't the interest rate higher on an investment property than on if you're living there?
Yes.
The bank wants to, if it's a higher risk,
Yes.
so they're going to charge you a higher interest rate.
Yes, yes, thank you, Bishop, that's true. So for investment properties, I had one deal where it was a short sale, and the house was in really, really bad shape. So he originally wanted to do it with Chase Bank, and Chase Bank would not. They would not do the loan. He had to do it, and John Kelly did it. John Kelly took it, he made it an investment loan. Of course, it was a higher interest rate, but what he did was this guy renovated the whole, it was in New Rochelle. I think you know the owner. It was in New Rochelle, they renovated the whole place, and then they doubled their money and they sold it. So, but the interest rate is higher. It is, because it is more of a risk. Any other questions? Ask. And if I don't know the answer, Bishop probably does.
Can you hear me? Okay. So it's probably similar to her question, so it's fine if it's fine. But are the criteria the same for a second home buyer? So they already have a house and they want to get another one. Is the process the same? How does that look?
You know what, that's also a bank.
That's also a bank.
Yeah, but you know what, it all, really, the better your credit, the more credit worthy you are, the more likely you are to get a better interest rate and more money, depending on your debt to income ratio. It depends on a lot of different factors, but that's really, a loan officer question.
Okay, got it.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah. That's okay, don't apologize.
So I just want to say that it's similar to what Natalie asked, because the bank is going to consider second house as investment property.
Yes.
Automatically.
Yeah,
It's going to be considered, and the interest rate will be higher, because if you're not living there, if it's not your home address where you get your mail at, then it's an investment property.
and then the other thing is that, like Natalie doesn't have a mortgage on it, so she's more likely to get a loan before somebody who's already paying a mortgage on one, and then will have to pay a mortgage on that second one. So all of that is taken into consideration when they're determining how much they're going to lend you and if they will lend you. Yeah, you're welcome. But write down your questions for the bank or any legal questions. Anybody else? No?
You know, you mentioned the programs, but I just find that the people that are in programs just have too much problems.
Yeah.
I just dealt with so many different people that have people who are in their place, and it's just a problem. Because what I find that when people don't normally pay rent, market value, they don't appreciate the value of your property. And it just creates so much problems.
Yeah, it's true. What happens is with investors that have multifamily properties, like 3-family and up, and they don't live, let's say the Bronx, they have an investment property in the Bronx, but they live out on Long Island, or they live in another location. They don't really care. The thing that they care about is the rent. So they're not making it, they're not using high quality in their renovations. They're just making it livable. They know that the tenants are not going to care for the property the way an owner would. And so they do it just to get the money. And because they know that the money goes directly into their bank account, they don't have to worry about collecting rent. And so that's why they do it. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you take somebody, because I helped an investor fill his 3-family, and I took young people that were my former students that were in shelters, unfortunately, and got them apartments, and they had the whole year paid off. Plus, I got a very good, broker's fee from that. So they offer you incentives, and for the landlord, they like that. They get really good incentives to take in people that are coming from programs, especially, like FEPS and some other programs, and you get your rent paid for a year. So, yes.
So it would be better to buy first homeowners to buy, if you want to save on taxes, to buy a duplex instead of buying a single home because you spend so much in taxes. As a realtor,
So,
how do you
I
feel?
just want to make sure that I understand your question. So you're saying
Like a
that they-
two-family
A
home?
two-family, okay,
Yes.
so that's what you meant by the
Two-family
duplex, okay.
home.
Yeah, so with a two-family home, what happens is they calculate the rental of the second unit, and they add that in, a percentage into, so if you, say you were pre-approved for a $600,000 home, but then you decided that you wanted to get a two-family home, they would add 80% of the amount of the rental income into your property. So you usually get like 100,000 more that you can be pre-approved for, maybe a little bit more than that. And as far as taxes, the taxes on the property really depend on the location. It really depends on the location, because right now I have a two-family property, and I mean, my taxes are probably like $7,500, which is not a lot. And depending on the location, so two-family properties are, you're saying, are usually less? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because when we purchased ours, they were saying you won't get as much back, and you can get enough money to fix up, you know, the two-bedroom or the three-bedroom,
Yeah.
whatever you rent, or become a landlord. And it worked better in our favor because we were paying a lot of taxes back when we had, you know, just renting, and then when we looked at the price of the house we wanted to buy, it was better in our financial situation to become landlords.
So,
Marianne,
yeah, I just wanted to say,
Let's close the live, because
Yeah.
that's good, and we can
Okay.
ask some questions.
so I just wanted to say this. Once you buy a two-family house, it's an investment. You're writing off a business. It's that two-family.
No, not you, don't.
Oh, I thought you wanted me.
No. Just say thank you, everybody. She close it.
I want to thank all of you for tuning in this evening. I hope that you received something from this class. We are going to have a second session with a great loan officer and real estate attorney, and that will be on the 10th of July. Thank you for tuning in. God bless you.